I was listening to one attorney who said that there, in essence, are many roads to convict Diddy. All right, y'all. So today is the day that the jury will be given the Diddy trial, in essence, where they will deliberate. At the time of this post, they will be given their instructions by the judge, and then from there, they will go into their room and discuss the charges and hopefully come to a consensus when it comes to the verdict. And hopefully, there will not be a hung jury. Now, for this particular video, towards the end, I will give my prediction on where I think the jury will go. But first, let me just say that I'm happy that this trial is over. It really just drains you emotionally. One, because you're often witnessing during the trial and also online in terms of just comments, you witness so much misogyny. There's a lot of victim blaming. I found Marc Agnifilo's closing to be extremely distasteful, extremely disrespectful to any victim. Saying that Cassie was the winner is just absolutely insane. It's my understanding, however, that some of the jury may have been laughing at his delivery because that's who he is. Like, gee golly, wow, like, oh, this is not a serious case. You know, that's his style. He's clearly trying to, in my opinion, to get a hung jury probably. I don't think, or their strategy probably isn't to, obviously they would want a not guilty from everyone, but I'm not sure they think that's realistic. So they're probably trying to at least get to one of those jurors who believes like this, who believes that somehow Cassie's the winner in all of this. Somehow Cassie was the one controlling all this. There's some idiot on the juror possibly who believes that. Because, and I say an idiot because it's obvious that Cassie was not in control. You can go back to Cassie's mother and her testimony and see that Cassie was in an environment of control. Because can you imagine a millionaire calling your mother and asking your mother for $20,000, or he will release allegedly certain tapes of you? And the reason why she initially didn't tell her mother, which to many was quite a touching moment, she said because she just didn't want to burden her with that kind of information. Cassie was a young woman who was caught up in just a horrible, toxic relationship that turned into possibly ST. Okay. And that's something that the jury will have to determine. But to say that she was in control because she had a burner phone, absolutely ridiculous. She had a burner phone because Capricorn Clark made it clear that if Cassie wanted to move on from Diddy, she had to ensure that he did not find out about her relationship with Kid Cudi. Otherwise, he would go ballistic, as we saw allegedly he did. Allegedly trespassing, I'll say, into Kid Cudi's home and likely, very likely committing or ordering arson on his car. And Marc also spent a lot of time speaking on how much money Cassie received, but we all know that a civil case is all about becoming whole when you cannot become whole through a criminal case. Like Cassie was never able to get a day in court when it comes to the criminal side because the evidence from the hotel video in particular was hidden for many years. So those statute of limitations ran out. So she could not have gotten her day in court to get any type of justice for that particular activity. That was taken away from her. So she had to get it through the civil court. And as we know, Diddy settled within 24 hours. So clearly she had something on him, correct? Now, Marc is kind of funny, though, talking about people getting millions of dollars from Diddy because your behind is getting millions of dollars from Diddy and your whole team. Y'all are all on his payroll. So I really don't know why you have a problem with other people getting paid from Diddy because your butt is getting paid from Diddy. I'm just saying. Now, I know that there are questions about the RICO case and whether that will stick. When it comes to closings, I believe, at least reading it, that the prosecution did a fantastic job on their first day. I know that apparently it was very dry because she was just going little by little through the law. But hopefully the jury will appreciate that. It's my understanding that a lot of the jurors are actually from the academic world, or have some background in that. I think one juror has a PhD, one juror is a finance person, and all that. So they may not have necessarily been upset with that delivery, or put off by that delivery, if you will. Although I did hear that some may have started snoozing a little bit, but it was a lot of information. But to me, what was great was that she broke it down in simple terms why Diddy would be guilty of RICO. Because, you have to meet these predicate acts, which I've talked about on previous videos, and they have many that they have listed, and they only have to meet two. So she made that clear to them. Also, what stood out to people was when it comes to the ST, the trafficking with Cassie or even with Jane, they only have to have said no once. And to me, that's just so clear when it comes to at least Cassie. When you look at that hotel video, that was her one time, and you saw it live, if you will, in living color. Okay, so that was right in your face. I don't see why you would even have any questions. And then you have documentation of Diddy allegedly, again, threatening people close to her. So there you have it. I mean, to me, Cassie, if anything, she, on that count, Diddy should be found guilty on ST. When it comes to Jane, it's just a matter if you believe her story of when she was allegedly attacked by Diddy, and then he forced her allegedly to then have an FO with him. So it's just a matter if you believe that. If you do, then he's he should be guilty there as well. To me, he's guilty of the RICO. To me, he meets many of the predicate acts. He definitely meets at least two. I was listening to one attorney who said that there, in essence, are many roads to convict Diddy. One that most people feel is a slam dunk is the transportation of workers. We'll just call them that. So there you have that. And quite frankly, that is one of the predicate acts. So you already met one of the predicate acts on RICO, and it's its own separate count. I guess the only thing that may hang up the jury when it comes to the RICO is whether his enterprise was involved in any of these illegal activities. And to be frank, I believe the prosecution presented good evidence there. You had assistants come to the stand explaining how they would purchase illegal substances for Diddy. You also have text messages from his chief of staff knowing or having a lot of knowledge about certain activities he allegedly engaged in. Again, I have to say, though, that Diddy has pled not guilty to all charges, and he's innocent until proven guilty. And we will see again whether the jury has determined that he's guilty or not. Now, here are my predictions. It's going to be hard. I definitely believe he will be found guilty when it comes to the transportation of workers. I don't see how you can give him a not guilty there. If that's his only guilty, then he may get time served. He may get probation, but it can give him up to 10 years in prison. But I don't see this judge giving him 10 years. This judge seems kind of in the middle, but definitely a guilty on that. When it comes to ST, that would be hard because it really just depends on the mentality of this jury. Like I said, I feel it's a slam dunk just because of that hotel video, and the prosecution made it clear she only had to say no once. If the jury believes that, then it's an absolutely guilty when it comes to Cassie on the trafficking. Guilty. So I will put that in a universe, guilty for that. And that is, I believe, a minimum of 15 years. Now, when it comes to Jane, honestly, I believe that will be a hung. Because even me, I'm not quite sure Jane was trafficked. However, again, if I'm following what the prosecution said, and we will see what the judge's instructions are for the jury, but if I'm following what the prosecution said, then he likely should have a guilty there as well. But I honestly think that that will be hung for Jane when it comes to the trafficking. So we have a guilty on, I believe, is it 2 counts for transportation? So guilty on transportation, guilty for trafficking when it comes to Cassie, hung jury when it comes to Jane Doe. Now, I will say that if it's a guilty on Jane Doe, it definitely should be a guilty on Cassie. And if it's a not guilty on Cassie, it's definitely going to be a not guilty for Jane Doe. In other words, I think Jane Doe is the weakest case. But having said that, let me get back to my prediction. Guilty on transportation of workers, guilty trafficking for Cassie, hung jury for Jane Doe when it comes to trafficking. When it comes to the RICO, they're going to hammer it out when they're going to debate about whether the enterprise was involved. To me, it's clear. I will say guilty on RICO because they for sure will see some predicate acts. For sure, because like I said, you already have transportation, and the distribution of illegal substances is quite heavy when it comes to Diddy. So I mean, just those two alone, you could not agree about the trafficking. So just those two alone, and the bribery should get him a guilty on the RICO. But again, the question becomes whether you believe his enterprise was involved with that, and that may hang them up. But I will lean towards guilty. So, in summary, guilty for transportation of workers, guilty for the trafficking of Cassie, hung jury for Jane Doe trafficking, guilty for RICO. That is my prediction. Be sure to share your predictions below. Peace.